Welcome back to Session Chat 5919. Today I'll be reading the second chapter of Dragon Time, Raise of the Dragon Riders, Book 1 by Ava Richardson. Although Daggett was head of the garrison, which also made him the magistrate in charge of the whole region, he typified Malahos' snobbery in the way he showed nothing but disdain for local Genet people. What's all the trouble here? There's no concern in his voice, only annoyance. He glanced over to where Clara lay over her brother's body. Even she had grown quiet at the sight of Daggett. At first, no one responded to his question, but then Clara lifted her head. It's my brother, sir. He was out scavenging on the mountainside cliffs, and her voice broke at a fresh wave of tears rolling down her cheeks. He fell. A heart of stone would have softened in response to her despair. But since Cora privately believed Daggett had no heart at all, she wasn't surprised that the man's only response was a cold stare. Right, Daggett said briskly before turning to the other scavengers. And what of your quota? It was a weary girl by the name of Strida who answered, pushing out locks of thick, raven-colored hair of her eyes as she straightened. We're working on it, sir. Her voice was clear. We're working on it, sir. Her voice was clear and strong, but grief still lined her eyes. See that you do. I won't hesitate to revoke your license if you are even a single scale short. Do you hear me? Life is full of. Daggett sniffed as he peered down at Clara and Nico. Inconveniences, but we mustn't let it interfere with our duty to the king, now must we? Ugh. I hate the king. That is my honest opinion. I just despise that king in this book series. Cora bristled at the words, and she wasn't the only one. Several villagers around her shared looks of disgust, mingled with resignation at the captain's callousness. Strida paused to swallow before answering through slightly gritted teeth. No, sir. Good, Daggett said, lifting his chin. Now we can't just leave the body in the square for the crows to peck at. He snapped his fingers to the two soldiers who stood stoically at his side. Remove the body. Take his body to the Samatrium at the garrison. The townspeople all fled. Samatrium was just one of the madhouse traditions that seemed wrong and unnatural to the Gennate. Well, the king's laws technically dictated that the dead should be cremated, the locals dodged the rule by handling their burials out of sight. Diet was both lazy and disinterested. He didn't actually care how the dead were laid to rest. He would certainly never put himself to any great troubles to enforce laws that didn't benefit him. As a result, great trouble to enforce the laws that didn't benefit him. As a result, while he openly sneered at Gennate ways, he couldn't be bothered to interfere unless, as in this case, the situation was literally thrust to his face. The soldiers took a step towards Nico's corpse, but Clara let out a wild screech as she threw herself back over her brother. "No, you can't take him," she cried out. "You can't bury his body. You condemn his soul. If the proper rites are not followed, I will not let you have him." "You forget your place, little girl." Diet stepped forward as his hands tightened and the hilt of his sword. "I will not be spoken to in that manner." "But please, Captain Diet," Cora pleaded through her tears, defiance giving way to desperation. "Let me take my brother's body. I'm begging you. Let me tend to my brother's body. I'm begging you. Please." Diet looked at Cora. "I don't care whether you bury him or chop him into pieces and feed him to the pigs. Just get this body out of here." An aching knot formed into Cora's chest. An aching knot formed in Cora's throat. As she looked in this scene, her hands still clenched at her sides. She swallowed hard, trying to dislodge the lump. But angrier, the sorrow were difficult to swallow. The sorrow were difficult to swallow, and as Daggett sneered at Clara, it took everything in that Cora's power not to launch herself across the square and slap that cold, indifferent look. Sorry guys, Chloe just knocked my phone down. Indifferent look off his face. As she was contemplating it, she felt Varen's hand wrap around her shoulder. Pulling her closer to his side, and it was meant as a comfort, but also as a warning. Varen had always been able to read Cora's intentions. Cora, her father whispered in warning, letting out a huff. Cora nodded at him and let him know that she would behave, but the anger coursing through her body wasn't cool, and her hands stayed clenched in tight fists. Daggett's cruelty towards Clara was just another example of this despicable, detestable person Captain Daggett was. But the number one reason she hated him was, of course, her papa. As commander, part of Daggett's job was to issue licenses for the various trades and industries in the town. Thus, it was Daggett who had issued the fine for Varen's late delivery back when he was ill, refusing to even hear Varen claim that he was late due to illness. Daggett had added insult to injury, but not only slapping Varen with a ruinous fine, but adding additional interests to every week. Varen was unable to pay off the lump sum. Daggett was the reason Varen was literally running himself into the ground. "Clear out the square," Daggett's voice ran out, echoing across the wooded walls of the builders. "Back to your lives, all of you," he commanded, shoving back through the crowd with his soldiers trailing behind him. The villagers didn't hesitate to obey his orders. The gathered crowd soon dispersed, leaving the body of Nico Barrett behind with only his sister to tend to him. Cora chewed the inside of her cheek, frustrated and saddened by how quickly the atmosphere of sympathy and concern had faded with Daggett's order. No one dared offer a hand to help Clara, just as no one reached out to help offered a hand to reach Clara, just as no one had reached out to help Cora and Varen when Daggett had scapegoated them. Everyone in Barcroft was on their own. "Come on, Cora," Varen spoke in her ear, pulling her away from the dispersing crowd and outside of Nico's body. "But what will happen to him?" she asked as she followed Varen back down the path that led to the forge. "His sister will see that his body is properly laid to rest." Varen kept his voice even, but Cora could see the tightness in his jaw as he spoke. The same anger that rolled through Cora like a storm seemed to be affecting her father. They stayed silent until they were back inside the safety of the forge. Varen moved the moved to the fire, stoking the flames with the iron poker, his lips pressed into a tight line. It's a shame what happened to Nico, Cora began, needing to focus on something other than Daggett. I didn't know him well, but I remember he was kind and he had a really nice laugh. He was only a year older than me, I think. Varen replaced the poker in its stand with a loud clang. He was too young. Such a shame to see a life wasted on scavenging dragon skills. Cora's brows lifted. She knew her father wasn't a fan of scavengers, but the judgment behind his words was stronger than she expected. Papa, don't say that. Nico's life wasn't wasted. He died providing for his family. She was referring, of course, to the handsome salary the scavengers received for their duties. We should honor him for doing such important work, even if it is risky. You know someone has to collect skills, otherwise King Onyx wouldn't be able to use them for the magic that helps our lands healthy and free from another famine. She didn't say it out loud, but Cora had always found the idea of a scavenging intriguing. Since the scavengers only went out once or twice a week per their license, it must be most of their free it left most of their free time free. They could study other trades or pursue their interests while still making more than double what most tradesmen and women made in a week. Cora had known from childhood that she would be groomed to take over Varen's forge one day, and she was happy with that. But she could work as a scale scavenger and barely miss any hours at the forge. The thermal mountains were like a second home to her, and she imagined that King paid handsomely to spend some time away from the smoky air and blazing fires would be a nice reprieve. Her duty was to her father and to smithing, but she wouldn't mind spending some of her time exploring the mountains she loved as she searched for and retrieved the discarded scales of a dragon. The commentary between scavengers themselves was also appealing. They were a diverse bunch, but there was a bond between them, a friendship that linked together. Cora had seen it in the square as they gathered around Nico's body. She had never had a connection like that with anyone since her anyone save her father and her late grandmother, and deep down it's something she desired very much. I don't blame the boy, Varen continued. I just find his death so senseless. Dead before he's even had a real shot at living. Dragons are dangerous, and no amount of money is worth risking your life. Says the man who's literally putting his own life an elf on the line to pay debt, Cora spat, the words spilling from her lips before she could stop them. Cora, Varen began, you shouldn't worry about me so much. I'm well enough to do what must be done. You're not, Papa. I know you like to think you're inflammable, but that's just not true. You haven't been well for months, and you're never going to be well enough again if you don't stop pushing yourself. If you don't stop spending every waking moment here in the forge. Varen slammed a pair of metal tongs together on the hearth, causing Cora to jump. And what do you propose I do then, Cora? Go lie down in bed for a month while Daggett keeps piling more interest on top of our debt? I can't afford the rest. Then let me help you, Cora replied, trying to keep her voice even. You keep insisting that certain elements of smithing are too dangerous for me. But Papa, I've watched you for my entire life, and I know I can do it. It's time for me to move from helper to full apprentice. I can't handle the work and responsibility, and then I can work while you rest. You are more than capable, Lark. That's never been the issue. But I am your father, and I cannot abide the thought of you spending every second of your youth stroking the flames of the forge while I sit idle. Cora felt so frustrated. She wanted to scream, but she forced herself to stay calm. Throwing a tantrum would not convince her father. That was mature enough to take on more work. You are not being idle if you're ill. And I can't stand by and watch you kill yourself because Captain Daggett is cold-hearted and unreasonable, letting go to the king, Cora said, rushing over to Varen's side and reaching for his hand. Please, Papa, maybe if I can tell him what happened with Daggett, he can be sympathetic to our case. There has been something we can do. Daggett is a tyrant who wields his power over Barcroft. Varen sighed, looking sad and resigned. King Onyx is a conqueror, Cora. I doubt you will feel sympathy for anyone questioning the authority of someone he placed in command. Besides, it is talk like that landed us in this mess in the first place. Do you not remember? Cora did remember, and the thought made her already flushed skin blaze hotter. When Captain Daggett first arrived in Barcroft 5 years ago, after the old commander of the garrison had decided to retire, many of the villagers had hoped that the new leadership would help bring much needed changes in the town. The previous captain had often allowed the garrison soldiers to lay first to lay first claim on any supply wagon that came to town. That included food, tools, clothing, and other goods that couldn't be produced within Barcroft. But the soldiers seemed to believe they were entitled to half of everything that came in, even though there were 10 times as many townspeople as there were soldiers. This often left the townspeople without needed essentials. After a particular difficult winter when supplies were scarce and anxieties were high, Varon had tried to organize a group of townspeople to petition Daggett. Captain Daggett had responded with furious anger. "How dare you?" he sneered to the collective. "You have no right to make demands of me or to judge me of what the garrison does or does not need. What an ungrateful lot to lodge a compliment against the very soldiers who provide you with protection and the rule of the law without the garrison. I dare say you'll tear each other to pieces within a month. And let that be a reminder." Then I replayed the moment for Cora, describing it like those few moments right before a bad thunderstorm hits, where the pressure bottoms out, and you know that things are about to get ugly. Being the face of the collective, Daggett had zero in on Varon, and you, Varon Hart, had best watch your step. I will not tolerate troublemakers in Barcroft, not while I'm in charge. Things had only gotten worse after that. Cora took a breath. "You didn't do anything wrong, Papa. You spoke out about a problem and injustice, really. It was brave what you did." "Yes, and look at the cost of my bravery, Lark." Varon let out a weary laugh, and it had no humor in it. Daggett had seen me a threat to his authority every day since that conversation. Whatever grudge he formed against me that day, well, he still carries it with him. It is the reason he did not show me any leniency regarding the late delivery. Cora let out an exasperated sigh. "He's a petty tyrant, a power-hungry little worm who likes to walk on the backs of others. That may be so, but there is nothing to be done about it. He is the hand of authority in our township. Instead of stirring up more trouble and making things worse, I must accept the punishment from him. I must do as he says." "There has to be another way. Something that doesn't involve you working yourself into an early grave. Maybe if I can go talk to him. Varen's eyes grew wide, and he whirled around, grabbing Cora by the shoulders and yanking her close. In a gruff, almost frenzied voice, he spoke. Do not approach him. Do not speak of him. Do not speak to him. Cora, do you hear me? I will not allow you to do such a thing. Do you understand? Kennel! Chloe Kennel! Chloe! Leave it! Chloe! Bed! Chloe Kennel! Chloe! Want to go in the kennel? You do not bark in this house. You do not bark in this house. No barks. Cora shook her head, unable to speak. Varen was a patient, quiet man, and to hear him raise his voice, something he'd only done to a handful of times in her memory, was a bit of a shock to the system. I'm sorry, Papa, she finally managed. I just don't want to lose you. All the anger drained from Varen's face, and he gathered Cora up in his arms. Just promise me that you will stay away from Daggett. I will do what I must to pay our debt and get out from under his thumb. All will be done in due time. Just trust me. I do. Of course I do. Yet even as she said the words, there was a small part of Cora that believed the words to be a lie. She trusted him to give everything he had, but what if it wasn't enough? Would she wake up one day and find her father unresponsive on the floor of the forge? Would she be forced to bury him alone while the other villagers had hidden their homes? Would the captain toast to her father's demise? She didn't want to know the answers to these questions and quickly shoved the thoughts away. You're more like your mother than you know, Varen said, patting her cheek. But like her, you must learn to tame the wild heart of yours. You are much too rash. The wind may blow wherever it wants, but not you. You must learn to be content with your lot and your mind, and mind your tongue. Keep your head down and endure, and that there is peace to be found, yeah? Cora nodded, but only because she knew it was what her father expected. On the inside, however, the words soured her stomach. Endure the loneliness she felt in her own village, the terror of watching her father's lungs fight for air. No matter what Varen said, there was no peace in that. Varen released Cora with a gentle sigh and patted back over to the anvil. The half-finished sword waited for him there, and without another word, he used a pair of tongs to walk it back over to the fire, reheating the metal in the flames. Cora watched him for several seconds, but a weight had settled over her chest. I'll be back soon, Papa, she called out, heading for the door. I'm going to take a quick walk, get some fresh air, and clear my head. Take your time, Lark. I'll be here. I know you will, Cora mumbled, leaving the forge behind her. That's the problem. Well, that was chapter 2. I hope you guys are enjoying Dragon Tongue Rise of the Dragon Riders. If you're enjoying this more, please like and subscribe. It helps me so much, and it gives me some motivation. So please do so. And if you want me to do preferences on books, I would love to. I might need a bigger collection of books. I don't have any of the popular ones. I have more of the ones in the backwater side of the groups, plus some Christian books. And yes, I am a Christian, but please don't mind that any attention. Anyways, have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.